Inflation under the Biden-Harris administration hit a 40-year high. And while the pace of price increases has dramatically declined since peaking in the summer of 2022, things are still about 20% more expensive than they were at the start of Biden's term. Former President Trump making it a core part of his campaign.
We will end inflation and we will make America great again.
But it's actually a second Trump term that some economists are worried about when it comes to inflation.
The outlook under Trump is decidedly more inflationary.
The primary reason for why a Trump administration could lead to price hikes, making it costlier to import goods into the U.S. Trump is threatening to slap a 60% tariff on goods from China, a top trade partner, with a 10% levy on nearly everything else coming in from abroad.
Countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China.
Mark Sobel worked at the Treasury Department under administrations from both parties.
Cost of tariffs will largely be passed on to consumers, and the Peterson Institute has estimated that Trump's tariffs could add $1,700 a year to the average household's costs.
Then there are tax cuts. A central accomplishment of his previous term, Trump has promised to extend those tax cuts and entertain new ones too, like making tips tax-free.
And that might pump up demand and add to inflationary pressures.
Translation, more spending that might encourage companies to raise prices. Finally, there's Trump's pledge to crack down on illegal border crossings and deport undocumented immigrants.
By this time next year, America's borders will be strong, sealed, and secure.
Sobel warning that could force employers to pay more for labor.
Employers are going to have to bid up costs, and you're going to have to pay more as a consumer.
Trump still citing inflation as he attacks his new opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, who admits Americans are feeling the pinch.
While inflation is down and wages are up, prices are still too high.
But Biden dropping out may be helping her out. A new Bloomberg Morning Consult poll showing Harris cut into Trump's lead on the issue of inflation by more than half with swing state voters. Still, for undecided Americans, Harris will have to answer criticism that Biden policies like stimulus checks and the expanded child tax credit contributed to the inflation spike. The administration acknowledging American worries about affordability with a new push against junk fees.
On day one, I will take on price gouging and bring down costs.
While the public awaits more comprehensive plans from both candidates, the Federal Reserve is attempting to do its part to curb inflation. The central bank's high interest rates have already helped, but with new fears of a worsening slowdown in the jobs market, there are expectations it could be cutting rates at a time where inflationary policies from the White House may be on the way too.
All right, NBC's Brian Chung joins us now. All right, Brian, importantly, there are still more job openings than workers. Layoffs have not picked up. Productivity is up. But the market is clearly betting that the Fed will, in fact, cut rates in September, maybe more than a quarter point, right?
Yeah, and look, when it comes to that disappointing jobs report, this is by no standards an economy that looks like it's in recession, at least right now. There's an official organization that's in charge of calling that. They haven't called it. But look, at the end of the day, for the Federal Reserve, they've been holding interest rates high. That has had the impact of taking inflation down, but it could also have the impact of making that unemployment rate rise further. That's the reason why markets are now pricing in an overwhelming majority chance that the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates by a 0.5 percentage point, not just a 0.25 percentage point in their next meeting in September. And by the way, there have been some questions about whether or not Hurricane Beryl had an impact on this jobs data. The BLS saying it had no discernible effect. So we'll have to see whether or not other data from July corroborates that, Tom.
All right, good info. Brian, thank you very much.